Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I've got an exciting announcement to make today. We are launching the podcast again, my podcast, The Josh Smith Show. It's been some time since I've done a podcast. It's actually been well over a year since I've had a podcast go live that was new. When I launched the podcast, this was something that was set up in my garage over at the house. And Montana Knife Company was just starting to grow, barely starting to grow. It had actually just been launched. I had a table set up in there. I had my mic set up in there. And we really had like one part-time employee, maybe two part-time employees from what I remember. So what happened was Montana Knife Company started growing, and I started running out of room. And we started closing in on my little podcast space. And pretty soon, it was apparent that the podcast had to move out of the way. I tried to do it in my basement, but then with having 4 kids and everything going on, it was just odd, and it was weird bringing guests in and having them have to come down into my basement. So I kind of let it go. But when we built this new building that we're in now, our Montana Knife Company facility, in my office, I wanted to put in a podcast studio. I've got a very unique opportunity that happens often where people stop in that are really cool people from the industry. We're doing different things with different partners. There's different people that want to stop by and say hi. And I want to share those people with you. I want to share their stories because it's honestly my favorite part of owning Montana Knife Company and being in this industry is the people themselves. I've become friends with people in different brands that you'll recognize like Leupold or Black Rifle Coffee, Eberly Stock, Cafaro, Stone Glacier, all these different ones, Sitka Gear. And I remember just a couple years ago being just kind of a regular guy at a day job and being very excited every time a new podcast came out. And I wanted to listen to what these different guys were saying. I was excited to hear what Evan Hafer would have to say on the Black Rifle podcast or Aaron Snyder on the Cafaro podcast. And I personally am just that same guy now today. I'm very excited that I actually get to talk to those people directly. And so why not share those stories with you, share those experiences with you? Because frankly, I'm just kind of a regular guy still that now gets to sit in this position where I get to talk to cool people that have done cool stuff. So February 27th, we are launching the Josh Smith Show again. I've got some guests already recorded. I'm actively recording some more here coming up. And I've got some guys on the schedule that are super, super cool. I also want to mix in some of my employees into this. I want you to see behind the scenes at Montana Knife Company. I want to talk to the people that work for me and actually learn some of their backgrounds that I don't know. And as we hire people, I want to bring those people in front of you because I really want you to understand and know who our company is and what we're all about. To be honest, the reason I started the podcast was to be able to actually interview some of the old masters, the old knife makers that I learned from, that quite honestly are retired. Some of them are failing, and some of them, frankly, I missed out on getting to do this with that have already passed away. And my goal of the podcast originally was to preserve those guys' stories. Guys like Don Fogg, Steve Schwarzer, Harvey Dean, people like that. The guy that taught me to make knives, Rick Dunkerley. These are all guys that I think are super cool, and they've really seen the knife making community build from the 70s on to where it is now, all over the internet, social media, television shows. It's been pretty incredible rise. That being said, I also want to interview people that I've gotten to meet through like the military, the veterans that have gone through some amazing things overseas, the different businessmen that I've met in the outdoor industry, and some of these different athletes, the professional athletes, and some of the hunters that have been on really cool trips and been around the world hunting and enjoying nature and partaking in this whole sport that we call hunting that I'm excited to be a part of. A little update of where we've been over this last year and a half, if you happen to follow the podcast and not our company. We've grown to a great degree. Back when I was doing this podcast, we had 2 employees part-time. Now I think we're up around 15 or 16 and hiring more this week or over the next couple weeks. And we got a lot we're going to be hiring, a lot of work that we're going to be doing, a lot more hiring that we're going to be doing the rest of this year. We got a lot of exciting things in the pipeline. New knives coming out this year, new knives and development going on for stuff next year. Things like a folding knife or maybe in the tactical space or more in the culinary, definitely more hunting knives. So I'm very excited about that. We have this new building that we now sit in. You're sitting in my office / podcast studio. This is really going to allow us to grow and expand. And hopefully we run out of space in here in just a few years. 4 or 5 years from now, I hope to be building actually an even bigger knife production facility, because that means we've continued to grow. And I don't see any reason why that shouldn't happen if we just continue doing it in an authentic way and you guys keep supporting us like you have. My wife now works for us full-time. Andrew is my director of operations. Got Henry standing behind the camera doing a lot of the podcast stuff and the videos you see online. My daughter works for us a little bit part-time. And a bunch of cool guys in the shop. Tristan, Boone, Matt. We got a new guy we're hiring named Al. Melissa and Lauren in there. We have Mike out in Pennsylvania, Jacob down in Boise. It's pretty cool, the amount of people that we've got, and they're all really unique and cool individuals. On the knife front, this has been a really busy spring. Right now we're in the middle of February, kind of the beginning of February. Tomorrow I'm leaving for Winter Strong. We're heading out to Bert Soren's and the Sorenex farm out there where really all this kind of launched. Montana Knife Company started out there. I took prototypes out to Winter Strong in 2020 as COVID was just beginning to be a little bit of a thing people whispered about. And 2 weeks following that event, COVID was all that everybody was talking about. I took prototypes out to that event out at Winter Strong and showed people what I wanted to do, explained to them the company I wanted to build, and they were nothing but supportive. And that family of people have really been kind of the wind in our sails to get us going, especially in that first year. Through some connections there, met Brandon, my business partner, who does our marketing stuff, runs our website, and things began to grow at the end of 2020. In 2021, January 1st, I quit my job and went full-time. And so now we've been just over a year and a half full-time, or 2 years. 2.5 years full-time. So it's been a crazy rocket ship. We're only really just beginning. Excited about this podcast, excited about our future. That's a little bit of a company update. I want to keep you guys updated more on the podcast as we go along. After Winter Strong this week, then next week I'm heading out to Portland for a hunting show out there. We just got back from the Hunt Expo and the Sheep Show, went to the SHOT Show, and it's been an amazing reception. The amount of people wearing our shirts, our hats, our sweatshirts that have come and tell us how many deer and elk their knives have been through is absolutely incredible. That testament to our product and what we're putting out tells us we're doing the right thing. That's the update. February 27th, we're relaunching this podcast. I hope you guys will check it out. Right now, we're not going with sponsors. We're just kind of doing it raw. We might bring in some sponsors at a certain point, but we really want to do this in the same way that we built the knife company, which is kind of from the ground up. And we just want to let it start to swell the right way. We need to learn. We need to get better at what we're doing, learn how to film it, learn how to produce it, all that stuff. And hopefully we'll put out some entertaining content, some educational content. Most of all, I just hope you guys get a chance to feel like you get to know us as a brand and the people we get to work with. So check it out February 27th, and thanks again for all the support.